Search for a missing Avon mom may have reached a devastating conclusion more than 100 miles from central Indiana. Police say human remains found at a Lake County pond may be those of 30-year-old Najah Ferrell. Again, this is not confirmed, but Avon police did say they were contacted by Crown Point police. Ferrell disappeared in mid-March. Family members say she left for work early in the morning of March 15th and never made it.
On this episode of Black Girl Gone, I tell the story of Najah Ferrell, a 30-year-old woman from Avon, Indiana, who disappeared on March 15th, 2019. The day Najah vanished, she was supposed to be at her new job, but Najah never showed up for work, and she didn't pick up her children from school that afternoon. Nearly a month after she vanished, her foot was found in a pond in a nearby town, but the rest of Najah's body has never been found. And 4 years later, neither has her killer. Who killed Najah Ferrell? And why? This is Najah's story. Najah Ferrell grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. She was the oldest of 4 siblings. Growing up, Najah's childhood was happy, described as both outgoing and independent. Najah was a light in her family's life. As she got older, that happiness that she had in her childhood carried into her adult life. Everyone loved to be around Najah. If you're a listener of this show, then you know that I always like to talk about who these women were before their identities changed to victim. It's just really important for me to humanize these women. And so initially, when I started to research Najah's story, I couldn't find a lot of background information about her. But her story was featured on the Discovery Plus show, Still a Mystery, and it was helpful in finding out just a little bit more about who Najah was. Najah had a big heart. She had 2 children of her own, but also fostered 3 children. Her family said that she always wanted a big family, and she had a passion for helping children. Being a foster mom gave her a chance to do what she always wanted. In 2015, Najah moved to Avon, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis. According to her family, she really wanted to give her children a better life. She knew how difficult it could be for foster children, and so she really wanted them to feel safe and comfortable while they were with her. Now, raising 5 children is a lot for any mom, but Najah had the help of her fiancé. The couple had been together for about 10 years when they moved to Avon, but had just recently gotten engaged around that time. For the next few years, the couple adjusted to their lives in the suburbs, but Najah and her fiancé's relationship started to change, and Najah decided to call off the engagement. According to her family, she started to become unhappy with the way the relationship was going and decided that she just didn't want to get married anymore. But instead of the fiancé moving out, the couple decided to keep living together, despite the fact that they had ended their romantic relationship. Now, as odd as that sounds, a lot of couples end up in that situation. Najah wasn't working at the time the couple moved to Avon, and so that may have contributed to their decision to stay under the same roof. But in early 2019, Najah decided to go back to work. She applied and was hired at a local Panera. According to her family, she was looking forward to going back to work. The job hours allowed Najah to be off in time to pick up her kids from school, and so it was perfect for her. March 15th, 2019 was Najah's 3rd day of work at Panera. She was still in training, and her shift started at 5 a.m. So Najah got up early that morning and got ready for work. She told her ex that he was going to have to get the kids ready for school because she had to leave early for her shift. According to him, Najah left home that morning and headed to work. Najah's 2 biological children took the school bus home, but Najah would go and pick up her 3 foster children after school. Now, no one in Najah's family knew that something was wrong that day. Everyone had assumed that Najah was at work like she was supposed to be. But when it was time to pick up her 3 foster children, Najah did not show up to pick them up. The school that the children attended called their social worker to report that Najah had not been there to pick them up and that they were unable to get in contact with her. The social worker had tried to call her but was unable to reach Najah, and so they decided to call her mother Paula to let her know that Najah hadn't come to pick up the kids. And when Paula got the call from the social worker, she knew that something was wrong immediately because it was not like Najah to not pick up her children on time. And the fact that no one could reach her was also not like her at all. When Najah didn't pick up her children, her family assumed that something must have happened to her at work. And so Paula called the Panera to see if she was there and to see if something had happened to her. But when Paula called the restaurant, they told her that Najah never showed up for her shift that day. And that's when Najah's family knew that something bad happened to her. When they contacted her ex, he told them that Najah left that morning and he had not spoken to her since. He also assumed that she was at work. But when the entire day went by and no one had seen or spoken to her since she left for work that morning, Najah's cousin called the police. Now, the police immediately took the report, but Najah worked in Indianapolis, where her mother lived. And so when police first received the report, they thought Najah had disappeared after going to work. But when they learned that Najah had never made it to work, they transferred the case to the Avon Police Department. However, Najah disappeared on a Friday, and the call was placed late Friday night. And so the Avon police didn't get the report until Monday, which caused them to lose 2 days in their investigation. On March 18th, 2019, Avon police started their investigation into where Najah could be. They searched the area around Najah's home and job looking for her or her car, which was also missing. They started by speaking to people closest to Najah, but no one had any information about where she could be. Now, Najah normally didn't just leave, and so they had no idea where she could have possibly gone or why. Police spoke to neighbors of Najah's, but they came up empty. Najah was nowhere to be found, and no one had spoken to her. Investigators also spoke to Najah's ex, who they say was cooperative. But the lack of information caused police to suspect that foul play was involved early on. From all accounts, Najah was a loving mother who would not just leave her children. She had also just started a job, and so there was no way that she would miss her third day of work. And so police suspected that something bad had happened to Najah. 2 weeks after Najah vanished, police got a break in the case. But this is one of those breaks that created way more questions than answers. On March 15th, 2019, Najah Ferrell left her home in Avon, Indiana to go to work. But Najah never showed up. When she didn't pick up her children from school that afternoon and didn't come home that night, her family reported her missing. As police began their investigation into her disappearance, it wouldn't take them long to figure out that something had happened to Najah. Almost 2 weeks after Najah vanished, on March 26, 2019, at around 1:30 a.m., a police officer found Najah's Nissan Altima in the parking lot of a movie theater about 2.5 miles from where Najah was supposed to be for work. And the police held a press conference with Najah's family 2 days later on March 28, 2019, to update the public about their investigation. During that press conference, the police wouldn't say if anything was found in the vehicle, but they would only say that the car had been sealed and impounded for evidence. However, during that press conference, the police also revealed that several personal items of Najah's were found near a construction site off the local highway. Police said that an Indianapolis police officer was providing security to a construction crew when one of the workers gave him the items that he found. The police, however, would not say what the items were that were found. Now, in the weeks following Najah's disappearance, police said that they had obtained 30 search warrants, including one for Najah's home, which was searched by Indiana State Police. But there was no indication that they found anything suspicious in Najah's home. They also said that they spoke to over 40 people, including family, friends, and neighbors, but none of the information they received led to Najah's whereabouts. Eventually, the FBI joined the investigation so that they could provide more resources to the Avon PD. Finding Najah's car in that parking lot provided the police with another area to search, and so having additional resources was helpful. But there were very few developments in the weeks after Najah's car and personal items were found, at least none that the police were sharing publicly. Now, the police said during that press conference on March 28th that they had obtained surveillance footage from various locations, but they never revealed what, if anything, they had found. Now, I couldn't find any information about their surveillance footage at all. There weren't many articles that even referenced the existence of surveillance footage. The police obviously did not release the information to the press or the public, but the episode of Still a Mystery, for the first time, reveals at least some of what was on their surveillance footage that the police found. The first video that they show was discovered by police on March 21st, 6 days after Najah disappeared. And the video shows Najah's car leaving her apartment complex parking lot on the morning of March 15th. In the video, you can see Najah's Nissan Altima driving towards the exit. One of the things that the tape reveals is the time that Najah left. She left at about 3:15 a.m. Now, her job was only about 15 minutes from her home, and her shift did not start until 5 a.m. And neither investigators or Najah's family can understand why she would have left almost 2 hours before she was scheduled to be at work that was only 15 minutes away. I mean, she was excited about her new job, but it's kind of strange for her to want to be there that early. The footage of the car leaving does raise suspicions. I mean, we see the car, but we don't actually see Najah. The assumption is that she was driving the car and that the footage shows her leaving for work, just as her ex had told police. Now, her sister also reveals that Najah left behind items that she would have normally taken to work, including a pair of shoes that she would usually wear to work and a coat that she always wore. Now, police have repeatedly said that her ex fiance has been interviewed several times and that his story is consistent with the timeline that they have about when Najah left her home. And so the question is, if it was in fact Najah, where was she going? Was she planning to make a stop before she went to work? Is that why she left early that day? Now, when police found Najah's car in the parking lot of the movie theater, they were also able to obtain footage of Najah's car being dropped off in the parking lot at 5:05 a.m., 5 minutes after Najah should have been at work. Now, the footage is really bad, but it's so creepy to watch her car drive into the lot because at that point, Najah is no longer driving the car. And after the car is dropped off, another video captures images of a man exiting the car, and then another car pulls up and picks that man up. The footage that they show on the episode of Still a Mystery is grainy, and you can't make out very much, but it still makes me question why the police wouldn't tell the public about this information. I mean, what if someone had seen the car being driven or dropped off? Why wouldn't they tell the public what they had found? I mean, I assume they spoke to employees that work near where the car was parked, but what about someone that may have been driving by? It's just strange to me that they would keep this information for so long. But the police said that the quality of the video made it impossible to make out the license plate of the second vehicle. And so it was obvious at that point in the investigation that Najah had more likely than not met with foul play. And whatever happened to her possibly involved multiple people. Now, the police kept the information about their surveillance footage tight-lipped, but they continued to search for Najah. On April 8th, 2019, almost a month after Najah vanished, two men were out for a day of fishing at a pond in Crown Point, Indiana, a town about 140 miles from Avon, when they discovered a severed foot floating in the pond. When police arrived to process the scene and collect the evidence, they saw that the foot had a small tattoo on it that said Najah. Najah's family was notified of the findings, and DNA would later confirm that, in fact, the foot did belong to Najah. The news of the discovery absolutely devastated her family. They had been holding out hope that she was still alive. Even though they knew that the possibilities were slim, they still wanted to believe that one day Najah was going to come back home. The police searched the pond and surrounding areas to see if they could find any additional information or additional remains, but they found nothing. Without Najah's body, some of her family held out hope that perhaps she was still alive. But the coroner confirmed that the foot had been removed after Najah was already dead. And so the little hope that some of her family was holding on to was gone. Najah was dead. Someone had murdered her, and they still had no answers. In the months following the discovery of Najah's foot, the police didn't get any new information or any leads, and the rest of Najah's body has never been found. It's now been 4 years since Najah Ferrell was last seen. Her case has gone cold. With no new leads and no body, the police are at a dead end unless someone comes forward and says something. There's so many unanswered questions. Was that actually Najah driving the car that night when it was seen leaving her apartment complex? Who was the man seen dropping her car off that night? And who was the man that picked him up? I think it's safe to say that whoever dropped Najah's car off that night had something to do with her murder. But the biggest question of all is why? Why would someone kill Najah? She was a mother and a foster mom. She wanted to do good in the world. She wanted to help children. So who would hate her enough to kill her and dump her body? It's not clear whether Najah's foot was severed by her killer or it became detached after she was dumped, but whoever did this was cruel and evil. They took away a mother, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. I wish there were more of this story to tell. I wish that Najah's family had the rest of her so that they could give her a proper burial. And I wish they had some of the closure that they so desperately need. But there is nothing else. So bringing attention to these cases is vital to get new information because somebody knows something. Najah's family continues to fight for justice, and they will not stop until Najah's killer is brought to justice and her body is found. If anybody knows anything, if you live in the Indianapolis area or you saw something, even if you think it's irrelevant, it might help put a piece of this puzzle in place. If you have any information about Najah Ferrell's disappearance or her murder, you can contact the Avon, Indiana Police Department or the Indianapolis Police Department. May Najah Ferrell rest in peace. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads.